Welcome back to the It's Bigger Than Me podcast. I'm your host, Molly Gomez. You guys, this is going to be such a profound episode. And it's going to be a two-part series. So you're going to want to pay attention to when the next one drops. The first one's going to be amazing. Second one is incredible. These two, Mary Elaine and Brett Baker, oh my goodness. When I came across somebody that is inside of your organization, VAUSA on LinkedIn, I just knew. I was like, there's something there. I have to talk to this person. When I spoke with Amy, and I just got to learn what you guys have created, I said, hold on, hold on. Can you put me in touch with the people who created this thing? Because there is such a different heartbeat behind what you're doing. For military families, just what you're doing for the Lord. I mean, that's why this has to be a two-part series, you guys. It is going to be that good. It is that good. So I cannot wait for you guys to hear their story, just the ups and downs that they've gone through, and just what they've created for such a time as this. When I first talked to you both, it was supposed to be what, a 15-minute call turned into like an hour and 15 minutes because we just kept going. We just kept going. So I'll take a pause here. I'm so excited for everybody to get to know both of you. So Mary Elaine, Brett, please share a little bit more about yourselves, and we'll dive in that way today.
Sure. I'll start. Thank you. I am Mary Lane, and I am the integrator and co-founder of VA USA. I am also a veteran spouse. My husband, Brett, served for about almost 13 years as an active duty Army Ranger. So it's a huge chunk of our story and really our life together. And we have two children, a daughter who's 14 and a son who's 11, and we homeschool, and we live in just outside of Savannah, Georgia. And our company is a team of virtual assistants. And you just mentioned we have primarily about 80% of our team are military spouses. And that's also a big part of our why. And we believe our mission work here. So you want to introduce yourself?
I think you pretty much covered it. I'm the visionary for the company, so I am kind of big ideas, big relationships, big problems, and Mary Lane is the integrator. It's a true operator of everything that you see, and it's just been an incredible journey. And God's been pouring into our team, into us, and developing us through this. And we're excited to share with your audience. Hopefully, something comes through us that they need to hear.
I'm sure of it. Every time that I talk to you both, I'm like, oh, there's just more that just I feel it gets revealed. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of gold that is dropped here. Hence why we're going to do two-part series. So the first question is like, why? Like, why did you two want to create something like this? What was the gap that you saw? Why is something like this important? Wherever you would like to kind of take any of those questions and run from there.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, my husband served Brett served for about 13 years. So for the first 5 years of our marriage, I was an elementary school teacher, and he was deployed very often and gone more than he was home. So a lot of just the burden of running our household, taking care of the children, and on top of that, my career, obviously that was all on my shoulders. And we just dealt with a constant yo-yo, of him coming and going and just being gone. So that started to wear on me about my fourth year of teaching. And then about my fifth year of teaching, I knew that God was leading me out of the classroom for a career change. Not working, I knew wasn't going to be a solution to the problem, because we needed, extra money financially for our just living. And I also enjoy working. I knew that God gave me some gifts and that he wanted me to use it in the workplace, but I just didn't know what could that look like. What else could I do that would be conducive for the lifestyle that we had? So I learned about the world of virtual assisting, and the more I learned about it, the more I thought, okay, maybe I should try it. So I tried it that summer, and I would say it took maybe a month at most for me to start to feel like a weight was lifted. So I don't know if there's something you want to add from your perspective on just the journey to get to that point of just being a virtual assistant myself and the change that made.
I was supportive through the entire process because I knew how burnt out and kind of frustrating it is to be married to someone in my career. And what I can tell you is that when she first stepped out and started doing this remote work, when I walked through the door, there was a palpable difference. And I remember one night she's crying on the phone, having this very emotional, vulnerable conversation. I'm like, who are you talking to? And it was one of her clients who's one of her good friends to this day. And that was the first time I really kind of saw, like, you really can build a connection in being in a fully remote environment. And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me of like, all right, this is something more than I kind of perceived it as being, as this detached, isolated work where you're just kind of working on your own. And there's not really a culture and camaraderie within it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And, I wish I could say we knew what that exact moment was where, oh, this is a whole business and let's move forward. But I think God really gave you that vision first. And then he just said, hey, I think we can do this with other people. I think we can teach other people how to do what you do. And we can be a bridge for people like us. And I remember just being eventually this revelation of, wait a minute, this God just made everything come full circle for me of I'm not done being a teacher. Because that was a really source of confusion for me for a while of God, why would you give me this gift and ability to communicate and teach and then not be able to use it? And what I realized he was telling me is I'm not done with you yet. Like you still have some teaching to do. And so it started with one friend. I offered and I said, hey, I have this vision to teach other people like us how to do what we do. And before I got off the phone, she said yes. And I started teaching her how to do it and essentially building a curriculum like a teacher of this is how you build a relationship with someone remotely. This is all the task and how to get it delegated to you and how to communicate all these best practices and handing off my clients. So one friend at a time, another acquaintance, and we would help them find each other and then be able to help them work together. But what I didn't realize, I say this all the time, that the pain that we were experiencing, when you're in pain, you kind of have almost these blinders on. You don't really realize what else is happening in the world around you. All you can see and feel and experience a lot of times is your own suffering and pain. So when I got the relief, it was like those blinders finally came off. And it was very evident that this wasn't just a Mary Elaine problem or Baker family problem. This is a big problem in America. I think you should share a little bit more about what we realized later on of this is a huge issue in our community and in our country.
Yeah, the military spouse unemployment rate sits at about 22%. So there's this huge
Mm.
unemployment problem. Probably the biggest impediment is the fact that they move about every 3 years. And so employers know that. So every 3 years, starting over again, it's hard to keep employment. And then on top of that, the lower enlisted families are living very close or at the poverty line. So having a second income in these families is a huge burden lifted off of them. And then on top of that, many feel like she did. She wanted some independence. She wanted to be contributing. She still wanted to work and use her skill sets, but wasn't willing to sacrifice being a mother for that. And so we just saw that there was this massive need around us. God had blessed us so we could go bless others. And we knew nothing about business, but we thought there's a problem out there for our people, and we think we have a solution. And we just felt God calling to say, hey, I bless you so you can go share this with other people. And that's how it all got started.
I love it. I love it. So you see why I'm obsessed? I mean, for people who've been watching the show, they're going to be like, I can see why you're obsessed with them because you picked up something that you didn't have to because you're like, this works for me, which most people stop there. But the it just kept spreading and in the best way and sprouting, I should say. Sprouting is probably better of so many other people need this. And working from home, I mean, if you want to say one good thing came out of COVID, right? Out of all the things, it's like we can do a lot from home, right? And there's times where I'm like, I can't wait to get out of my office and go do something else. But the fact that I just get to wake up and walk in and it be so simple. And like you said, for all the VAs you have, they get to provide for their family in their own environment. They don't have to like go do all this other stuff in order to bring in income that's definitely needed. I just love it. And being an entrepreneur myself, needing VAs, all of that, I've always been like the small business focus. Like, how can I help somebody in my own backyard rather than going outsource? And I've tried the outsource and I'm like, no, see, I knew I wouldn't like it. So I love that you're doing that because I mean, there's so many layers deep that we can go into this I mean, military families, like the sacrifice they're already giving, what they're going through, like what all pours into that. Then on top of that, to be able to give them some employment in a sense that can help you build your dream, you're helping them feed their families and build their dreams, whatever that may be. I just love how it's that just, becoming more of a full circle moment. Now, I know that you two definitely have a heart for the Lord. Talk about the mission, like the mission field side of this. You can also call it the ministry side of this, right? Because obviously you have a heart for people, which is why you wanted to create this. You didn't just stop with yourself. You said, "Wait, there's more." Press into that a little bit because this isn't just an ordinary like VA operation. It actually is a lot deeper than that, and I would love for you guys to share.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I wanted to say something that God has been revealing to me more and more lately is that obedience comes first and equipping comes later. That has been a repetitive theme in my life, especially when you heard the first part of the story and Brett mentioned, like, we don't have any formal education in business, one. We did not grow up in entrepreneurial families, two. And I had a master's in education, but I knew that God was calling me out of the classroom and that I needed to make a change. Even when it didn't make sense, I did it. And so he equipped me after I decided to obey. And that has been the theme all throughout. So what you see now with our business and what I'm about to share more about our ministry and mission field and the community that we have built, I want you to know that it has been an evolution over time and intentional decisions of surrender and obedience that has been the theme over and over and over again. And the equipping came later. He does not
Mm.
equip us first and then wait for us to decide if we're going to obey. That is not how he works. And that goes not just from our story, goes all the way back to Moses. So but yes, our ministry and how we pour into our people is really our why. And it started, like we said, with fulfilling this one need. I look at us providing a job opportunity for a deserving military family as their manna for the day, and that's where they come. That is the biggest pain point of why they come and they apply with us and they want to come here is they may see a little sense of our culture, but they really don't know. um, and they want a job and they think it looks like they take care of their people, but they really don't know. So once they walk through our doors and we fulfill, I would say, this basic need of theirs that they have, uh, our job is to continuously build trust with them, build a real relationship with them, and pursue their hearts and to help them with whatever pain or burden it is that they are carrying. Now, I want to be clear, this doesn't mean that we think our job is to solve all their life
Mm.
problems. That's not our job. Everything that we offer, as I would say, like non-traditional benefits, are there to be like a buffet. There are resources. We are the vessel for that transformation to happen. They have free will. They have to choose to step into it and to take it. And then God does the rest of the work. But we feel, as stewards and owners of our business and stewards of our people, especially, that we are the connector, we are the vessel, we are the way that provide the offering. And that's our main responsibility, is to provide that table and all of the offerings with it. So that's being very general and the why behind it. Is there something you want to add?
Mm-mm.
No.
He's like, I know when I'm going to tap in. I know you're going to start going off here sometime soon because you have passion in there too, Brett. Like it's, I do have a question for you. This is going to be angled at you now. When you walked in the door and you saw that connection was being built and then this idea birth, and now it's so much bigger than just providing an income, the manna for the day. Love that you said that. And you're going so much deeper, which we'll tap into of just the depths that you do go. Because this, again, it's not just ordinary like employment or not necessarily employment, but contract work. And for them to be able to really bring in an income, it's so much deeper than that. But I would love to know from your perspective, just even a little bit deeper, like what you've seen as this has taken shape, Brett. I mean, being the visionary, seeing these connections, seeing the military, the spouses that are being impacted because of what you built, from you being the one that's been out in the field and now you're the visionary on this, but also you see a lot on the back end. Explain a little bit of that because I love seeing Mary Elaine's like teacher heart come in and nurture. And then I would love to be able to hear your perspective too on this.
This is probably the first time in my life where I can say that I'm truly trying to do and build things that are going to help other people. And it's not that I live my life trying to hurt other people, but I just didn't live in that manner. And so that's part of my faith journey and how God has strengthened my faith through this. But just seeing the impact when you just hear one little story, and it could be something as big as a salvation, or, we had a breakthrough at a marriage retreat, or just someone saying, all my kids are sick, life is chaotic, you sent this one meal to our doorstep, and it just gave me just a few minutes of stress relief.
Mm.
It's the small things that we can do can be so impactful to others. And what I found was we'd see an impact, we'd see some of that fruit by living out what God's calling us to do, and it felt so good. And it's like, man, I want more of that. I want more. Like, what's the next thing that we can do? And I just kind of became hooked to this idea. Like, this is a tool that we can use to really help people flourish. And we're all going to go through storms in our life. And it's like, if we can be there to help guide, mentor, and love these people through and get them to the other side, it's just this incredible feeling. And I think God puts this innate drive inside of us to help other human beings. I don't know anyone who doesn't feel joy after saying, hey, I helped that person along their journey.
Right.
And we know what these military families are facing. We've been through a lot of these situations ourselves. So how could we ever turn a blind eye to it? And it was kind of that point of view. It's like, we can't turn a blind eye. We know what's going on. We experienced it. But then seeing the fruit start coming through, God gave me a mission when I lost my mission. I lost my purpose. I lost my calling, I thought, in life. And, I'd be a terrible assistant. I'm not technically talented in this job. But I love trying to pour into military families. And we're trying to get upstream of the problems. If we can prevent one divorce, then we can keep one family together. Maybe we prevent one more suicide, which is a huge issue in my community. And it's like, hey, this is a tool where we can provide income and we can make a huge impact in their lives. And it's such a powerful revelation to know that your business is capable of doing so much more than providing a product or a service. You should do that and do it with excellence. God wants us to do everything with excellence. But the great stuff, when I look back on 2025, I don't think about some deal that was closed. I think about the breakthrough in a marriage at a marriage retreat, or the salvations, or people just saying, man, it was such a relief not to have to cook for my family for 3 days because we're all have the flu. That stuff really drives me. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And that's the mission God's put on our heart.
That is beautiful. I just keep hearing just even what the world will deem the small things, you guys are deeming the important things, which really are the things that matter. Like, it's like everybody looks at the big wins, but meals for a day or two, and just the salvation, which is huge, the marriage that's been restored, the space you create for people to really feel seen, heard, and loved. That's what I really hear underneath it all. And that's what everybody wants, but it costs us nothing to do that. But yet it means everything to everybody else. So I love that you said that. And even the fact that you were like, God gave you a new mission when the old one had passed, a new one had come, and just how it's springing life in yourself, not just these other people. That is so key. Now, I would have to ask, because immediately when you said it, either one of you, whoever wants to share, maybe each of you have a story. What is like an instance? You don't have to say names unless you want to, of like a story, a success piece, like something that's really impacted you because of the work that you've done. What's a story that's come out of this from a family or a person that you've helped that really has impacted you? I would love to hear. Actually, yeah, if each of you have one that has impacted your life, would be great to know.
Yeah. Well, we have seen and walked through many team members whose spouses have deployed for a long time. And I can just think of one family in particular where, and we kind of have a joke, about Murphy's Law in the military spouse community, where as soon as they leave, something bad happens, and then another thing, and then another thing. And it is so true. I've experienced it myself. And it's just stuff you can't make up. You just can't make it up. So there was just a series of multiple unfortunate and very stressful events that happened to one of our military families, and she has multiple children. And what I witnessed in our team is that they all rallied around. Funds were raised anonymously, meals were delivered, gifts were sent, and the amount of gratitude and relief, and this deployment kept being extended as well. of course, um, it wasn't just a gratitude and relief too. It was the knowing and the feedback from her is like, I just know like I'm not alone in this. And a lot of times our team members have said to us that not even their own families and friends have ever understood or rallied and supported them through those times of being separated like we have.
Wow.
Which is it, if you can just let that sink in for a little bit, it's so sometimes it's overwhelming for me to think about that, because I mean, it is true unless you have lived it. And I think that's what's key here is we have lived it. And as a community, we all know what we're all going through or have been through. And we get to be that person for someone else that no one else was able to be for us when we were walking through that dark season. And I think, yes, it may have started with us, but now that we have a community of people and this has caught fire within our community, it's not, I don't want, it's not just Brett and I doing these little things. It's our whole community doing it for each other. That has just been so beautiful to witness, and it just continues to grow over time. There are people right now doing things for other team members, not being paid to do it, not because we ask them to do it, but because that's just the culture that we have here, and it is what they want to do and the desire from their heart. And when that happens to them, then they want to be that person for someone else. We just created the landscape to make that possible and to make it normal.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, even I can't put myself in a military spouse's shoes because I was never there. I get their challenges, but I've been on the other side. I've been gone 6 to 8 months out of every year for a decade. I've been on those deployments, and I know how impactful it is for me to have a rock at home taking it all on their shoulders, because Mary Elaine was incredible. And I've also seen my friends who didn't have that. And I watched the turmoil and the stress and their marriage falling apart on a deployment or on, long training events. And it's sad. And the idea that we can surround that person, that military spouse who is silently serving, who no one ever thanks, no one appreciates what they got themselves into. They don't even know half the time. They fell in love, and then all of a sudden they're on this crazy roller coaster. They are silently serving this country, and they really are the bedrock nobody sees. If my marriage is falling apart, I am not going to operate well in a foreign country. And so something I would encourage your audience, you meet a military couple, thank that spouse. Because I signed up to do this. She didn't. For me, just a quick story from this past year, marriage retreats have been a big thing that we've been pushing, because our goal is I want my people to flourish, but you flourish when your family flourishes. We want to pour into the family unit. And marriage retreats is one of the ways we do it. And we had a couple come off a marriage retreat this year, and they said, we had one of our biggest disagreements this year that we were having trouble like getting through together. And after that weekend of the marriage trip, they had a breakthrough. And it's like, that may sound so simple, but we all know that a major conflict in a marriage can spiral a marriage. If you can't find that common ground, that forgiveness or whatever they were looking for, that stuff seeps in and it sits and it boils over. And there's always a starting point for where these things unravel. And maybe that's one of those moments, that a marriage was saved that we would never know about. And once again, it's not because of us. God's doing the work inside these people, and these people are willing to go put themselves out there to work on their marriage. But to just think that we had some small part of it, like that's the fruit that I'm chasing every single day. And you can do this in any business. It doesn't matter. If you have people in the business, you can do this, because it's not like I'm passionate about spreadsheets and keeping to-dos for people. I need an assistant, but I'm passionate about helping people through our business. And it's an amazing experience.
It's so evident. It's so evident. I love both of those stories so much, because it really just, this is the part that I was so excited to highlight, is just your heart for people, right? Like you said, anybody can create a business. You can create anything. And sure, it could have the numbers and all this stuff, whatever, but the depth, what happens behind the scenes, the character, the core of the people in it, but it always starts from the top. the top down, right? Like the leadership and how this started. And you two are literally the real deal of like what you stand for, what you've gone through. And many years ago, the Lord gave me this phrase of your story is meant to be mentorship to somebody else. What you went through 5 years ago, 5 minutes ago, decade ago, doesn't matter. Like you have overcome it in some fashion. And he wants to use that maybe in one singular conversation at a conference, on a podcast, whatever it may be in a program. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big or small. I keep hearing this from you guys as well as, just even if it's one. And if Jesus left the 99 for the one, so should we. And those are the type of people I want in my life. Those are the type of people I want in my business to make my dream come to fruition or the vision really that God's given me. I know so many other people. And that's why I was like, y'all have to come on here and just pour it out. And so, we're gonna actually wrap this segment here pretty quickly since we're coming to the end of this, and we're gonna start part two where we can dig into a little bit more of the weeds of just the behind the scenes and the heart. Because when you really know the heart of somebody's business and where they are and what they're doing and what God has put on them, those that have eyes to see and ears to hear, it's like a magnet. It's like a magnet, and I want as many people to be magnetized to you guys as possible. And that's why we're here. So I'll go ahead and just kind of say we're going to wrap up this part and stay tuned for part two. Before you go, remember that your story is so much bigger than you. If this episode encouraged you, maybe challenged you, or even had you feeling that you're not alone in this process that we call life, share this with a friend who needs to hear this message today. You can go ahead and connect with the guest that we had on today's show, or even myself. You'll find all those links to connect in the show notes below. And just know, God is using even your voice to be mentorship to somebody else. Stay tuned for the next episode. We'll see you next time.